thank you everyone for coming. This is really great turnout. It's awesome to see everyone. It means a lot. I want to thank first and foremost Dave and Tina for being so inclusive with the restaurants and having that commitment. And I want to thank Danny over here for providing the tunes. Two slices. Came around town, and I'm really happy to my friend Kian Masters. He's also in the band Brave Baby. Talking to Tina playing the event, we thought we'd have a cocktail. We really bonded over talking music. I bonded with them, and so Tina had the idea of we do a cocktail party, DJ'd, and all that, and I one up that by asking Kian, who had always loved our conversations, to do it with me and ask us questions, and we talked about disability, and then the last thing also I wanted to highlight who we're donating to the Family Resource Center for Disabilities and Special Needs, headed by Bev McCarty right here in front.
What was the name of that again?
The Family Resource Center for Disabilities and Special Needs, and they are a local nonprofit. Bev is spearheaded for not too long, but very long. And they do great work of providing educational resources to families with children with disabilities or special needs, of educating them and finding the help that they need. So happy to thank you all for supporting that as well. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Hi, I'm Kian. Nice to see everybody. Big fan of Michael Drohan here. We've probably known each other for, we were just talking about this, 7 or 8 years.
7 years.
Started with the thing, me, him, and our friend Walker called Five Loaves Wednesdays. And we'd meet up on Wednesdays as often as we could. And Michael was still moving pretty good. Yeah, and we'd have to wait a couple cross lights to get up from the parking lot into Five Loaves, but me and Walker are pretty big dudes, so we'd just kind of stand in the middle of the street and tell everyone on Spring Street to buzz off while we made it across the street. And he never seemed to care. And Michael is excellent. He's an excellent patron of the music scene. He's an advocate for the music scene. And he is an advocate for the let's just call it the art and culture and food and everything, all the reasons people like to be in Charleston. Michael is the same, and he's an advocate for him, and he's there, and he's always pushing it. So I appreciate our friendship, and thank you for having me tonight. So my mom was like weepy that I told her I was doing this tonight. She goes, "Oh, you're so nice," and I was like, "Hey, it's just my friend, Mom." But I was like, "You didn't like it enough to come." Just kidding. And she was asking, and then I was talking to my stepdad, and he was saying, and I'm sorry I'm getting off a little, throwing you a curveball, but what is MS?
MS is a disease that the cause of is unknown, but it basically, the best way it's been described to me is it's an autoimmune neurological disease that I see a neurologist to cover it, but basically the best way it's been described is that around your nerves there's a coating that's kind of like an electrical cable. If your nerves are an electrical cable, the coating's like the rubber around the electrical cable. And MS eats away at the coating. Your body attacks itself. It mistakes your nerves as a foreign object. So it's attacking itself, and over time, it starts with what they call relapsing remitting, where you might have an attack every now and then it goes away, but the damage is there. Then over time, for most, the ability just slowly, your physical ability just slowly gets worse, or really almost anything. Some people have vision problems or speech and swallowing problems, and other things like that. But the biggest thing is definitely walking, and
it started in your legs. You had that cool little Volkswagen.
I did have the take one. Well, for me, it started as a feeling in my face. Just I felt asleep, and then my eyes weren't really tracking right. So that's where it really started. 20 years ago now. So just hit my 20th anniversary in May. So there's that. And
okay, so 20 years. Can you elevator pitch? What is that 20 years like then?
20 years for me, like the first 4 or 5, I was diagnosed when I was 18, and I was lucky, or for me, it wasn't an immediate, where I am now. Like I remember one of the first things I asked is, am I going to die from this? And the doctor said, no, you're not going to die from it. But it just was like a slow thing in college, luckily, because this was the time before Ubers, and I was in New Orleans at Tulane, and it was a lot of walking, and just thank God I could walk all that I could.
So you put them to good use for those couple of years.
Yeah, I definitely put my legs to good use for a while. I had that full strength, but then probably like early 20s, 23, 24, I noticed I needed to sit down after a mile and kind of recharge my battery. And then after that, for a while, it was like a half mile, then a quarter mile. Then I had to start using a cane, just from there, and then 2 canes as Kean remembers, crossing the street, and then eventually a walker for a short time, and then a wheelchair primarily. So now I'm primarily using this. I'm not really standing or walking as much anymore.
I would say, like, from my perspective, just being your friend, the last, right before COVID to now has changed. And now it's pretty much it's settled. It seems to have settled into this routine now, but it's changed drastically in the last 5 years.
Yeah, I definitely feel pretty stable, but the change from walking to where I am now, just for whatever reason, we're here.
Yeah. You and I were so Michael and I met on Friday just to have coffee. We went to this place called Highfalutin, and even just for, I know this board was created to talk about inclusivity for all types of people, and we were walking in Avondale. I was walking my dog. We met at his house. We got out. We cruised together, and we were going to this coffee shop that was great, Highfalutin Coffee. It was accessible, but where I was turning to go, and these little things you don't even think about as me or whatever. I'm going to go up these stairs right here to go towards the things. Like, all right, let me zoom down here and go all the way down to the crosswalk and come up the sidewalk and come all the way back down. I was like, well, I'll walk with you. And he goes, I'm faster this thing. And he hightailed it down. So we were talking, and we were having a long conversation about identity and, how do you feel that this diagnosis has changed you or affected your outlook, yourself or your identity? And, what did I say here? How has this diagnosis affected you, and has it messed with your identity?
I mean, it's kind of just an evolving thing, because disability, is kind of, it's nothing. If you, I don't know, it's just nothing. I don't want to be on PC, but it's just not, something that you asked for to be disabled, but it's one of those things in life, then all of a sudden you are, and it's, okay, how do I adapt to that and work through that? So it kind of, being thrust into it, I've had to think about like every point of how do I turn, how do I use this new status of where I am in my life. And so it's definitely, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. I just feel with the identity, it's because I knew a life before having the disability, and there's plenty of disabled people who the same way. it's kind of how much am I supposed to make my identity my disability, or I guess, or hold on to what I had, or just how to put those together, not how to carry on, because we're always carrying on, but it's kind of like, I guess, how to keep going and do what you love, but at the same time, be cognizant of your current abilities and working through those. I'm not sure if that really makes sense.
No, I think we were talking like, depending on who you are, if you know yourself, if you're lucky enough to know yourself at an early age. Granted, we always change. Like your compass might have been set at some point in time.
Yeah.
Right? You love Supreme. You love streetwear.
Yes.
Yeah. And does that have to change? Does it have to? You're right, because you do have MS, and now you're in a chair, and now you have to think totally differently. But you can still like the same shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But you do have to. But everything's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is expected of you now that you are different, and I don't know, people are probably looking at you differently, and what they assume your ability is, and are you like as much of a benefit to society, or need special consideration, or I also I don't like being called with the identity. I definitely don't want to be called like an inspiration when I'm just living my life, sort of thing. It's just we're all just doing it. And I just always remember one of the early times when I started walking with two canes, there was a woman who saw me walking into the restaurant and was just like, "Oh, you like, bless your heart, you're doing so great, and such a so proud of you for doing this." I'm like, "I'm proud of you too." Yeah, we're just yeah.
So now's the time. Like, do we say "bless your heart"?
Right.
Should we say that to anybody?
I mean, yeah, can we say that? I don't think so. But yeah, in that context, I was just like, I'm just doing what I gotta do. I'm walking to the restaurant. You're walking to the restaurant. Don't commend me for it. It's just where I'm living. I'm gonna keep living.
You said something the other day that made me laugh about I said it's how far is that? You said instead of walking distance, you said it. What you said?
To roll.
It's rolling distance.
Yeah, it's
rolling. I know that. It's rolling distance.
Within rolling distance.
Yeah. Okay. So, has there been a part of being like so now you're I wouldn't say you're beholden to this identity, but your identity has changed, right?
Yeah.
Or not changed, but
I've had to incorporate
this into your identity.
And also, it's with the disability, it's up to you, of course, how much you want to, make it part of your identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So having this part of your identity now and being in this community, has there any part of it that's struck a chord, anything you've noticed, anything you don't like, dislike? And not only being in the Charleston community, but now you're in the MS community,
yeah,
or the ADA, or not ADA, but disability community in general, and your community, your friends, your family, whatever.
It definitely just accessibility to everything in life, and a lot of people, everyone takes it for granted. Of how is it like, because it's easy to say, but like sometimes it's just I wish more people would just think of, okay, put myself in the mind of someone with a disability. Can they get in here, or could I make it easier for someone? There's this, especially in Charleston, there's so many businesses and restaurants with like a step up or 2 steps up, and but I wish more people would buy a ramp just so people can get into places. Go on Amazon, buy a ramp for $100. It's not that hard. That and what's another disability thing? I mean, people just don't think through it. I had some other good examples in my head, but yeah, just. Of course there are things in the world that are not going to be accessible to someone. Like, I'm not trying to go, and that I am fine with. Like I get I'm not going to go to stair only upstairs places like Sue Walker at Bangkok Lounge wants to take care of me up there. My stepfather wanted to go up to sing karaoke, or I'm okay with that. But there's just so much I wish people would just think of how is this accessible? How can I make it more accessible to life to people?
Yeah. And if you think about it, in a lot of, across the board, and Tina, even we kind of spoke about this, there's so many voices for so many different, this is off script. There are a lot of leaders in a lot of different areas, and I don't know, just as a citizen of the States or South Carolina, I can't think of a ADA leader right now, or a voice that's kind of like, that everyone can kind of get behind, of saying like, whoever that used to be, whether it's Steve Hawking, whatever, I don't know. But do you have anyone that like you admire right now in the let's say the greater sphere of America, or something that maybe we could all pay attention to and look for, or is that you?
Well, right now, Victoria might know more exactly the go-to leader, but.
Talk about Judy.
Well, I mean, that was what Keena's talking about now. There was an amazing human, and her name is actually Judy Human. Is she's a legend in the disability community. She there's actually a documentary about her on Netflix that I really think everyone should watch.
What's it called?
I think what's it called? Being Human, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
with Crip Camp?
Yeah. Sorry, no, yeah, Crip Camp. And the Obamas produced it, actually. It was a few years ago. And it followed her life from, she had polio, yes. And it was following her life from, like, summer camp in the 60s and organizing at this Crip Camp, they called it, of people with disabilities, kids with disabilities. And she went on to then, in the 60s and 70s, like occupy buildings with lead occupations of people with disabilities, and for things being inaccessible, and then eventually did get the legendary Americans with Disabilities Act passed in 1990. She was the main fighter behind that, and I don't think enough people realize that she is like the Martin Luther King, if you will, of the movement.
So ADA Act was 1990, right?
Yeah.
And that was a huge shift.
Huge shift. It definitely for newer, for every new building and every new park, that instituted all the parking spaces, that instituted all of the building the ramps in buildings requirements, and that was a big moment.
So even kind of back to what we were talking about just cruising around Charleston or places to get into, like you're saying, I wish some place would just buy a fucking ramp.
Yeah.
Do you think if your community, or the community, the ADA community, the disability community, I'm sorry, knew that there were places, and it was kind of common practice to have, we'll get you in no matter what, we'll have a ramp. Do you think maybe we would even see, do you think a lot of people, maybe in your position or positions like you, just stay home because they feel like they can't even get there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
because you find a way.
I find a way. I always say creativity and ingenuity are the two most important skills to do things. Also,
your front door.
Yes, absolutely. I got a beautiful ramp on the side of my house.
Well, the rope chain.
Oh yes, also the rope chain. They closed the door behind me. I have a carabiner and a rope to put it on as I close, so I can get that easily. So yeah, there's this there's just so much to be done and to change, and what was the original?
I guess the question is if people with disabilities knew that they could always get there. Like, how often do people? You can't answer this for everybody, but how often do you feel like, even for yourself, like it's not worth it to even try to go?
Oh, don't. I mean, that's like the main question I deal with anything is the juice worth the squeeze, and getting ready what my energy level is, and are we really, and also like go out in the heat or something for too long. Like especially in the summer, I'm hibernating, and it would definitely help a lot to if there was a map. But even still, it would definitely help. So.
But at the end of the day, I think even someone like you has to recognize that, like, this is my challenge, right? Like, this is something you have to. What you have in your notes here is like, creativity and ingenuity are key.
Yeah, and everyone's different, and I should have started with this also. This is my experience, and I'm not pretending to speak for the disability community, because every disability is different, and everyone's way they deal with the world, not just people with disabilities, but everyone in this room, the way you deal with the world is different. So I'm just speaking from my experience, and so it's
speaking with Tina earlier, because you're included on the Always Awkward hospitality committee, the board committee. Are there conversations you guys have had that you now see? It seems like we'll talking with Tina earlier. You guys had an open door for conversations about what can be different.
Yeah.
Like what ways is quite fair or beautiful?
I asked Tina to install a spider walk on the bathroom because the walk was like a little high, I thought, for someone in a wheelchair. I haven't been back to the bathroom since.
But how cool for you to even incorporate the perspective, right? Just to have, and then for someone like, I don't know, you're pretty cool, and you're unbiased, and I feel like to open the door and communicate is important. So I think that's awesome.
And kind of with the communication, I'd say like with the disability community, and again, I don't want to be like on PC, and everyone's story is different. Personally, maybe this is also from my background of not always with the disability. There's definitely people who are more militant than I am about like this has to be done, and people who very well could come to Dave and Tina and be like, your place is inaccessible, this is bad, change it now or I'm going to sue or something. I tend to back up a little bit, and that's another one of my key tenets is compassion is key at first, and more flies with honey than vinegar sort of thing. I mean, obviously there is a time and space for militancy if you really want to get stuff done in the grand scheme of things. But in general, I start with a more understanding or for better and for worse thing of someone didn't think about this. If they don't respond well to me bringing it up, then maybe that's a different story.
Yeah. Well, ignorance isn't always a bad thing, right? It's just maybe they just don't know.
Right.
And
exactly.
For you to bring awareness is.
Yeah, and
maybe that's what your identity is now, just bringing awareness.
Yeah. And that's what I've been just thinking about, of also going back to how much the question of like identity, of how much of this do I need, or not want, but like how much am I or expected to have as my identity. That disability is part of it. I personally want to do more advocacy, but am I expected to consider myself like disabled? I don't know. It's just a loaded word, and everyone's got a different interpretation of everything, and yeah.
I think you were talking earlier, and we'll get towards the end here shortly, but you're right though. You're 37, 38?
38.
You're 38. The first half of your life was totally different. You're 18. We talk about our compasses kind of setting. You have walked both lives. You understand, and maybe that's why you have compassion, and maybe you have time to wait and let people meet people where they're at, right?
Yeah.
As long as people are having a conversation,
right?
It seems like you're willing to have that conversation.
Exactly, and that's like I said, my personal take on it, my personal approach to life of if people don't think about it, I'm not going to be mad that they didn't think about it, because it's not something they necessarily knew they should be thinking about, or I don't know. There's everyone in life who's more compassionate than the next. So.
Is there anything we take for granted on the daily? One thing we were talking about the other day.
That's right. I think just
middle of the night, tummy grumbles, or
yeah. I mean, and I think just with that and with anything in life, really, it's just the ability to get up and go is what I kind of miss. It just, everything takes so much planning, and it takes me like 10 minutes to get out of the shower now, from my bench to back in the chair, and it's just that quick ability to do things is I think one thing folks, I don't know, they take for granted.
Yeah, definitely. I do. I mean, I was late to I was not even a block away from you. I was 10 minutes late.
you said, "Oh, I gotta take a shower," and then it was a half hour later.
I'm sorry. And we, the other day, maybe this is sentimental, I don't know, but we, if you're lucky enough to know yourself at an early age, which I kind of feel like you were, maybe your family can attest to that, but you are a really grounded and really wonderful person to talk to about, and not even about, honestly, when we hang out, we barely talk about MS.
Yeah.
We kind of talk about tunes and like music and sneakers and shit. So you were lucky, right? Your compass is set. You still change, but you kind of are going somewhere. So your 18-year-old self, like you said, you find out. So 17-year-old self sees Michael now. He's probably shocked, right? He doesn't know, but when you're talking to yourself, same guy, different guy, you like who you see?
I think in general, I think the compass is what it's always been, and I still have those same things that I identified or am passionate about. It's just a little different. Definitely I have had to focus a little more of my priorities on being as healthy as I can be. Maybe than I've seen a lot of the world, and I haven't slowed down in that respect, but it's just different. And so it's, if anything, MS and all this is just, the biggest word I use is frustrating. That it's, especially with MS, it can change like hour to hour, minute to minute, just how you're feeling.
Well, even when we got here, you have like something that you experience daily you were talking about.
Right, yeah. So it's like, but overall, I think yeah, but always, like we were saying, the compass is still intact. So
can you accredit any of your success to any of the people here?
I think everyone in this room, but yeah, my mom, my lovely wife, and my dad, and brother for being there, and everyone along the way definitely helped build the compass. So keep it intact at least.
If anyone has any questions, I think we could take some.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that the team here is like really open to feedback, and you don't have to listen to it. But Charles, do you feel like the feedback you've received provided has been well received, or?
But I'm sorry though, like the city of Charles.
You mentioned, the bathroom, like with the law, but I'm just curious, like, if you've provided feedback elsewhere.
I have actually, and I mean, again, like I have no problem like pointing out when I see there's an issue. Like one of the things I saw when Keith and I were talking about, when I was rolling down the sidewalk along Sycamore Avenue in West Ashley to the gym, there was a stretch of it that is just like completely covered with weeds and all this, and I tweeted at them, and they actually went and cut the weeds within a couple of weeks. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. So for just saying things. So I mean, but with that said, there have also been a few places that are like, well, that's not our problem. A few like bars I've been to that I don't know. I forgot exactly the bar's actually not there anymore. They closed because they were a problem bar. maybe because they weren't accessible enough, they decided to close up shop. But like,
Maybe Carmen.
some are kind of like, yeah, we'll deal with it, in so many words or, highlights. Generally speaking, Charleston's fairly open and at least nod and say, yeah, that's a good idea. But yeah, occasionally, kind of inconsistently. Good, so yeah.
Have you ever put anybody on blast on the internet?
Probably. I always say with my Twitter X account, my tag is, this is mostly devolved to me complaining about companies. And occasionally it is like tweeting at United Airlines or tweeting at the cable company, what's going on? Yeah, so,
That's excellent.
yeah.
Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Michael, I've been around forever, it seems like, and enmeshed in the disability community for 30 years. And I've seen kind of a revolving attitude about person-first language. And I'm just wondering why, because I'm seeing in the literature now that it used to be person-first, but it's less so now. Have you noticed that as well, or do you have thoughts about that?
In what regard?
And say, for example, you are, you're Michael, you're MS, or you are an individual with autism rather than, you're autistic.
Oh, I see.
So you put the individuals first before you put the disability. But now I think there's some disability pride happening.
Yeah.
That is kind of changing that a little bit. I've seen it, in the literature as it comes across my desk. And I was just wondering what your thoughts are, or if you have any about it, or where's that?
Yeah, no, Bev, I appreciate the question of did everyone hear, if not, she's asking just kind of how you, I don't know, call yourself disabled or, person with a disability or person with MS versus an MSer. I'll be honest, my personal feeling on that, how I interpret it, and what I say is evolving, as it will. I see the both points of disabled pride, like I am proudly, disabled person, just like anything you're a person is part of. But there's also, at least in my internal dialogue, internal thing, I feel, at least with saying, there's something about, I don't know, maybe it's my own inconsistency or on not, well, I'm trying to think of the right word. With the perception of it, my problem with the perception of it or something, I say I have a disability. I still do say I have a disability a lot of times. It's because there's also the point of like, well, you have this, but is my whole world disabled? So I kind of I'm still personally having an internal conversation with how I refer to myself with that. I mean, I don't fault anyone for how they want to interpret it and say it, because you're in one regard, if you start by saying I am, or by saying I'm a disabled person, it does, really up that we're all in this together sort of thing. So yeah, personally, I'm still kind of struggling. Like I said, I think I said in one of my posts about this, like, come and listen to me talk about my 20-year identity crisis, like this. So personally, I'm still kind of inconsistent on how I refer to myself. So.
I got one last question.
Yeah.
So I think everyone here is already a part of, are already people interested in learning about how to respond in a world where people like you need it, not like you, but people with disabilities can be accepted and be included, and how we can, as people, grow. What would you tell the people in here to tell the others in their life when it's time to maybe talk about this, or how they can further include or be aware, or what is that for you? Or what am I trying to say? What can we do, and how can we broach the subject with and get the point across? Yeah.
It's tough. I think it's
because I can't even invite you to a dinner party at my house right now. To be honest, I can't get you. So maybe buy a ramp.
right. Everyone needs to buy a ramp for their house for when a person with a disability may or may not swing by. You'll be prepared. So, yeah, I think it is. And there's only, like I've been saying, I don't want to make an excuse for the world, but there is only so much we both can do on either side to meet each other halfway. But meeting someone in that halfway and being understanding of different ability levels is key. But how you do that, I think it's an evolving. Each person has a different take on everything.
I can address some of that. I'm the father-in-law. Laura and I, we have a home in Brownsville, Georgia that was 100% not ADA accessible. So when Michael and Tori would come over, we had to learn and we had to listen. And each individual trip that Michael would make, another thing would be uncovered that could be done. And the key to it is listening, watching and listening. So now we've evolved through the last 2 or 3 years. We call it the room in the cave, down at lower level. Done a number of things. The path that goes around the house with this fancy wheelchair, he can zoom faster than we can walk.
Yeah.
Scares the hell out of Tori a few times. But it came down to watching and listening to what he was saying in terms of, I think if you try this, I think you can do that. It's got to work both ways.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think another thing that helps other people have awareness around it is the fact that they're all only temporarily, all of us at some point are going to come into a situation where you're not going to be able to move the way you can right now. Sometimes that could be because you're holding a child and you just have one hand to text with, or you might have a temporary injury, or you might be diagnosed with MS. But I think when you share that thought with other people, they can maybe start to think about oh, that is true. I shouldn't take this for granted, and I should also consider how other people who don't have their thumbs or whatever at this time.
Let's be more considerate of everyone.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Question, we've been talking a lot about physical accessibility.
Mhm.
I was wondering if you could address, other forms of accessibility that
Right.
you think people should be paying more attention to.
Yeah. But the other this is not my forte of the other ties, mostly physical, but there is plenty of other ways, with
Universal design.
yes, universal design. Thank you.
Can you share that?
That's what I do every day. And just making more accessible to everyone. We taught in the classrooms, how professors can post the PowerPoint for all students, not that will help students with disabilities, but it will help anyone who knows, or focusing, maybe they had a rough night last night or something, and they need the news just like the person with a learning disability. So it's thinking about the world around you and thinking about how to make accessible to all. Not with people with disabilities, but for all abilities, like you were saying, we were temporarily.
Thank you, Victoria. That's beautiful.
Think of everything.
Universal design. That's awesome.
Yeah. Universal design, and there's also for digital. There's again, federal compliance. I think it's section 508. Yes, 508, and make it all. There's the whole guidelines on how to make a website accessible, and people with vision and other disabilities can access it. So, yeah.
Great question. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Oh, we got one.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes.
So Charleston is like a city where I feel like the infrastructure is really unique in that it's super old and weird and hard to deal with. It's not an excuse, it's just like how it is. But I was curious, where have you been that's killing it? If there's anybody, like what's a good example to look at?
It's a really good places that actually a place I didn't expect because it was on King Street and there was a little bit of a threshold. 167 Raw and Bar 167, they have ramps for 167 Raw. They have a ramp to get in, and then they also Bar 167 has, obviously I'm not going upstairs, but to eat in the main room, most of the tables are a step down, and so even then they have a ramp and they just bring it out no problem and set the ramp up and going down there. So it's like a second nature just to do that with them. A place that has those inaccessible options. Trying to think where else has really stood out to me as someone that's really doing the most. Yeah, I don't know.
That's a good one.
But yeah, yes.
We're talking a lot about ramps, but I'm just curious, that seems to be, an obvious barrier, but are there other pet peeves, things that maybe the community is just overlooking that in your mind it's like, oh man, this can, but that might not even be something that we notice when inviting others to our home or as, business owners?
Yeah.
Height of a door lock.
Yeah.
Door lock.
Ropes on the door.
Yeah.
Just asking about it too. Like I know the biggest thing I do, I'm like, oh, you were just talking about it before we brought it up. Like, just ask. I know sometimes it's like uncomfortable. You don't know what to say, and you're like, I don't know, but it's bigger if you say something.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, they talk about it too. Like, I didn't have to say anything. Like,
That's right.
wow.
Yeah.
Like, that's the biggest thing for me. Like,
Don't be afraid to ask, what can I do to people.
yeah.
So.
I don't wait until we say it. Like, you're not offending. I'm more curious that you thought about it.
Victoria has a whole TED talk on this, and that's real. So
Is it?
Yeah.
So, lastly, before we get out of here, you have a YouTube channel. She has a TED Talk. Share those so people can know, and then we'll get back to drinking and hanging out.
That's right. we're a power couple.
Yeah, you are.
I'll figure it out.
Victoria, do you want to share about Victoria? Do you want to share a little bit about Victoria?
About what?
About Victoria and her I think she's overcome?
Yeah, absolutely. Victoria was born with mild cerebral palsy, and she has overachieved in so many ways. She went to college at Charleston, and then after that, Master's of Social Work at Boston College, and from there, really dedicated herself to the working with disability community, and now after a few less than experience with nonprofits, she's now with the College of Charleston and the as an access specialist in the Disability Services office. So she is a bright star in the area that I'm lucky to call mine.
In the arena? Yeah.
Yes.
And so what's your YouTube channel now?
It is. It's M. Drohan. I call it me and MS and my story. But I think you can find it. I haven't tried for searching for it. I don't think, but I think it's M. Drohan or maybe ML. But I think it's M. Drohan.
And you're giving weekly update, like weekly kind of logs.
I've been doing it for 2-3 years, and I started out, every 1 or 2 weeks, but then I got to a point where I thought I'd said most of what I wanted to say, so now it's kind of a little further between episodes, but yeah, still doing them.
Maybe you just read your Twitter feed on that, your Twitter rants.
Right, it's just complaining to companies. So.
I think that's good for us. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, well, thank you guys.
Thank you, Parfait. And always Awkward Hospitality. We're doing this every month, right? Something like it every month.
Awesome.